Okay, here is part 3 of chapter 1. We're going to start getting into the process of science. And so we're going to cover some important questions, just kind of some very basic ones that you guys will need to know because science is going to be everywhere you go. There are a lot of things going on in the world, a lot of problems that are occurring that science can help solve if we know how to use science, if we understand how to detect good science from poor science. And there are plenty of people who will tell you which science is which, but I'm going to do my best to give you at least a brief introduction so you have an idea and can figure out science for yourself. So things we have to deal with like biosecurity. We just had the Ebola, the flu, measles is just now coming back. They had that Disneyland thing with a bunch of measles. Immunization, is that good science or not? How can you tell? Global warming is going to be a huge issue that we all have to deal with, and we better deal with it quickly. But what's good science and what is not? You'll have plenty of people that will try to tell you it's bunk. They've invested their whole lives and every penny they have into making people think it's bunk or promoting poor science, showing that it is bunk. Why the good science shows that, yes, it's happening, it's real. Science, of course, can't tell us what to do about it. We have to decide that for ourselves. We can't put a morality on it. But we have to be able to distinguish good science from bad science. When someone brings us bad science, we need to be able to tell. And so I'm hoping this helps just a little bit. And once again, there we go. So, this is a picture of a baby, one of my graduate professor's kids or whatever. And I stole the picture because it makes a great point. So we see this picture here, baby sat the tray, and then we see that tray right there. And in the evolution chapters, we'll talk about this again. And so we make the inference, the obvious inference, is that the baby made that mess. That is the obvious inference, and it's the highest probability. However, it is possible that aliens came down and did it, or that some random person came through and did it, or the earthquake just shook everything just right, and so it made those patterns. All of those are technically possible. However, they're all highly improbable. The highest probability is that the baby made those patterns. Just like the highest probability is that global warming is occurring. The highest probability is that the diversity of life can be explained through evolution. So those are all the highest probabilities. So you could make the claim that aliens came down and made the diversity of life, but the highest probability from the evidence we have is that it's evolution. So, of course, when you get that whole picture, then we see both of them together. And this is an important statement here. Pattern provides evidence for deciphering process. So when we see the stratified layers in geology, we see a pattern, and that provides evidence to decipher the process in which those were made. So even though we haven't seen it, we haven't seen that geology form, that sandstone form with our very own eyes, the process in which it is formed can be deciphered from the pattern, just like we can make the assumption that the baby made the pattern on that tray. It's the same type of reasoning used. And the type of reasoning is deductive reasoning in order to do that. So, science. means to know. In this, what they have here in the book, and I am not too terribly pleased with it, it says science is a way of knowing. This is very important that it is a way of knowing and not just another way of knowing. A lot of people say it's just another way of knowing. It's no better. It's all relative. It's completely relative to your background. It's completely relative to the scientist who did it, because science is biased and all sorts of different things. And this is a lie. And we'll talk about how we weed out bias in science. Science is not just another way of knowing. It is a way of knowing. It is a way to discover truth. It is a way to build knowledge that you can count on, to make predictions that you can count on. It's just like if you went to the roulette table and you knew where that little marble was going to land. Science can make those predictions each and every time. Of course, in the roulette, it's random, and science is going to give you probabilities and numbers, but essentially that's what it does. So scientists, they used inductive reasoning to draw conclusions from observations. Inductive reasoning, think of it like this. If I go to a forest and I pick up 10 ants, and all of those 10 ants are the same species of ants, I would then say all ants in this forest are of species X. Okay? Or think of it this way. If I have an egg carton and I open that egg carton and I pick up an egg and it has this best if used by such and such a date, and it's already expired, I would assume that egg's rotten. And then I pick up the next one and it has the same date on it, and I assume it's rotten. And I pick up the next one, it has the same date on it. And so I go through 6 of these eggs and they all have the same stamped used before date or whatever. I would then say that all the eggs in this carton have the same used before date. They are all rotten. That is inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is kind of the flip-flop of that. So if I would go to that same forest with those ants and say all ants in this forest are of species X. Therefore, if I go and pick up an ant, it will be of species X. Or with the egg carton. All cartons, egg cartons, were manufactured or packaged with this same used before date. Therefore, all of the eggs in this carton are going to have that date. And so the logic, it's kind of the reverse of logic. One flows from the specific to the general. So therefore, it says to draw general conclusions from many observations. So we take specific observations, draw general conclusions. The other goes from the general to the specific. So we have a general premise, and we go and use the specific, we make specific observations from that. So deductive reasoning is generally safer, a safer type of reasoning. However, both are necessary, and you can't ignore one and accept the other. You need to use both types of reasoning to discover those truths. So, I'm going to pound this into your head. This is important. So, how is a theory different from a hypothesis? So, first we have to look at what a hypothesis is. We have to look at what a theory is, and kind of distinguish between a theory in colloquial English and a theory in science, because those are two very different things, and that'll come in some of the later ones. But you'll need to know it. I definitely test you on this. I definitely want you to know this very well. So a theory is broader in scope than a hypothesis. So if we look at my graduate work, I collected a lot of data. And then a hypothesis would be explanatory of some of that data. where theory would be explanatory of all that data. And so a hypothesis explains conditions or results A, B, C under conditions X, Y, Z, where theory explains results A, B, C, D, E, F, G under conditions R through Z or whatever. So theories are usually general enough to generate many new specific hypotheses, and those hypotheses can be tested. Theories are supported by a large and usually growing body of evidence. I'll also add theories have never shown to be false, like cell theory, theory of relativity, the evolutionary theory, germ theory, right? Diseases are caused by germs. Those are all theories, the theory of gravity, right? So yes, there are exceptions to gravity in different places and how it all works, but the theory of gravity is supported by a large amount of evidence and is never shown to be false. It's shown under conditions, different things happen, but it's never shown to be false. So theory of gravity is the same thing as the theory. It has the same value as the theory of evolution. So when someone says evolution is just a theory, it's because they don't understand what a theory is. They really don't even know what they're saying, because they just said that evolution is correct when they say it's just a theory. So here's a lady looking at her ring-tailed lemurs. She's doing science. She's making observations. Actually, she looks more like a tourist. She was a scientist. She'd have sunglasses on, and well, I guess she has sunglasses there, but she'd have a notebook and be making notes and different things like that. But we solve everyday problems using hypotheses. So hypotheses are kind of the nitty-gritty there. And so an example, why doesn't a flashlight work? You go to turn on the flashlight, it doesn't work. Why? And then we use deductive reasoning. So the same reasoning we use to establish evolution we use to figure out why a light bulb doesn't work. Because we couldn't see what caused that light bulb not to work. We just know it doesn't work, and we have to use deductive reasoning. We have to look at the pattern and infer the process. So, a hypothesis, there's some qualifications for a hypothesis. And these were set forth by Karl Popper, and there's a little picture of Karl Popper right there. It must be testable, falsifiable, and repeatable. If it's not testable, if it's not falsifiable, if it's not repeatable, it's not science. So we can make all the claims we want, all the belief claims we want, but if we can't test them, falsify them, and repeat them, then it's not science, it's something else, and it's a belief system. And it's okay to have any and all belief systems you want. You can believe whatever you want to believe. That's fine. But don't say your belief is science if it's not falsifiable. Don't say, well, there's a design to this tree, there's a designer, if we can't falsify that claim. Because if there's no way to falsify that claim, then it's not science and it's a belief system. And it's okay to believe whatever you want. But we're going to give an example here, deductive reasoning about the flashlight, and we're going to go through. Is that testable? Why doesn't a flashlight work? Okay. So the hypotheses would be something that's testable, falsifiable, repeatable. Something like the flashlight does not work because the light bulb is burnt out, right? That would be a hypothesis. Testable, repeatable, falsifiable. We can never prove a hypothesis to be correct. We can only prove it to be false. We can have evidence that support a hypothesis, but it's supporting evidence. And if we gain new evidence that does not support it, we rethink things. So science is a process. It's what we do. Let's talk about ways of knowing what is more trustworthy, What should we rely on more? Observations, guesses, facts, hypotheses, theories. And so I want you to think in this list which ones that you think are most important to a scientist as a way of knowing. And I'm going to, forgive me, I'm going to quickly check to make sure I'm not going over. Okay, only a few more slides. I want to make sure I'm on track here. So, which one of these is most important to a scientist as a way of knowing? And the answer, most people think hypothesis. That's end all, or fact is the end all. Facts are just data. That's what they are. This fish is that long, is so long, and that's data, and that's a fact. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean, facts aren't helpful unless they mean something. And hypotheses add meaning to the facts, and theories add meaning to a whole bunch, a big broad range of facts. So when we're dealing, let's say a guy cuts you off on, you're driving down the road, somebody cuts you off. And so that's your observation. Person cuts you off. And to sound smart, you want to say, my theory is that guy's a jerk. Well, that's not a theory, that's a guess. Okay? It's not testable, it's not repeatable, it's not falsifiable, it's a guess. Right? Until we create a hypothesis, test it, pull the guy over, ask him or whatever it is, it's just a guess. So a lot of people confuse theory and guess. In colloquial English, they use theory as a guess, but that's not what a theory is in science. It's important you know that distinction. So guess isn't really worth much of anything to a scientist. A fact is helpful, but something that explains those facts is more helpful. So if we were listing in order of importance, theory would be first, hypothesis second, fact third, and observation fourth. Theory has never shown to be wrong, therefore we can use that to make predictions. We can use that to create more hypotheses, create more tests. So in that process of science, theory is extremely valuable. So here's our flashlight question. We have an observation question, hypothesis. We think it's, in this case, let's go to hypothesis 1, dead batteries. So if we make the prediction, if we replace the batteries, it fixes it. We replace batteries and we test it. And the test, it still doesn't work, so it's been falsified. We falsified our hypothesis. Okay? And then, so we go back and we try a new one. Well, the bulb burned out. We replace the bulb, and then we test that. The bulb comes on. The test does not falsify the hypothesis, and so we say the data supports our hypothesis that it was a burned out bulb. So, is evolution fact or theory? Fact, we can use this definition, confirmed to such a degree that it would be perverse to withhold provisional assent. Okay, so once again, I have this fish. It is 12 millimeters long. And you look at the fish, I can show it to you. You can take the measuring stick, you can look at it, and you confirm it. It would be perverse for you to say, well, no, it's not 12 millimeters, it's 6 feet long. That is very perverse because someone else could come by, look at it, and say, no, it's 12 millimeters long. So, confirmed to such a degree that it would be perverse to withhold provisional assent. That's a fact. So does evolution fall in that category? Absolutely. Evolution has been confirmed so often in so many different ways, it's perverse to withhold provisional assent. So is evolution a theory then? Theory, an explanatory statement that is confirmed by extensive testing and has never been disproven. So does evolution follow that? The answer is yes. It does. It is an explanatory statement. It's been confirmed by extensive testing and has never been disproven. So, is evolution fact or theory? The answer is yes. So in research projects, we're going to go over an actual research project and kind of look at how they do science. And so they began with a set of observations, and they saw that venomous, not poisonous, your book gets that wrong, animals are brightly colored, and the imposters resemble these venomous species, but are actually harmless. So they have this hypothesis that mimics benefit because predators confuse them with harmful species. So there's our concept check. You can go through there if you want. I'll give you a little bit more time to read that. But, well, let's go through it. Not all scientific discoveries are reached through the scientific method, which of the following would best be described as discovery science. Sequencing the human genome, describing a new bird species from Philippines, a project to find preserved specimens of probably extinct Rocky Mountain locusts frozen in glaciers, all of the above. And the answer is all of the above. That's all discovery science. So, back to our snakes. So the question is, do these mimics benefit from looking like those other venomous animals? So you need an experimental group, you need a control group, and you need to collect data. So a control group is a group where no external manipulation is made. And we want to compare the other group, the experimental group, to which manipulation is made to see if there is a difference. Okay? So we take an experimental group consisting of artificial king snakes and a control group consisting of artificial brown snakes. And so they only have one factor difference, and that's coloration, and we check the data. So here, red on black, friendly jack, red on yellow, killer fellow. So this is a coral snake, right? And that red on black this is a king snake. And so they look very, very similar and when you're looking at them. And so this guy is a mimic. So the scientists, they took and they made these clay models that look kind of like this king snake, right? And then they made these brown snake models, and they looked to see came back and looked to see which one of them had bites in them, and which one of them had more bites in them. And they looked at the range. Okay, so here's the data. Always, always check the data. Okay, never accept anything. Always look at the data. So on the y-axis, you have the percent of total attacks on artificial snakes. Okay, and then on the y, you have whether the coral snakes were absent in the area or whether they were present in the area. So what we have, the artificial king snakes, where coral snakes were absent, were attacked 83% of the time, and the brown snakes 17%. But where the coral snakes were present and lived, they were attacked 16% of the time, and the brown snakes were attacked 84% of the time. So because of that bright coloration, where there are no coral snakes, predators found it was easier to find those snakes than the brown snakes that kind of fit into the background. So does this data support or reject our hypothesis that artificial king snakes gain some sort of protection by mimicking them? And so the answer is yes, it did. From that data, it was clear that they did. And so this is where I'm going to stop here and add some more questions for you. And then we're going to break up this next bit into two different parts as well. So do those questions, and I'll have part 4 and then head to part 4.